To me, if you're looking at it through that frame, you're lost. If you're looking at the issue through that frame, you're already lost. So whatever the rest of the shit you say doesn't even matter. So obviously, like I said earlier, COVID, I mean, it's not really dying down. More people are getting vaccinated. So, that's positive. That's a positive thing. But I think in 17 or 18 states, it's actually spiking. And I think a lot of other places it's flatlining or it's plateauing. So I want to, because I've been seeing stories about like big pharma's role. Obviously, they made does anyone else hate like saying the name of one of these pharma companies every time you talk about a vaccine? Like I hate saying, oh, it's the Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Like I feel like we just started like getting people to understand that these big pharma companies are horrible. Most of them should be prosecuted for getting people hooked on prescription drugs. But yeah, I hate doing that. But it is what it is at this point. And so I saw Crystal Ball tweet this, or actually this is what I first saw. I first saw this because, there was a lot of variants that, they were worried about that were overseas. Well, now they're here. And so the B117 variant is now dominant in the US. This person says they're 99% certain. I don't know exactly if this is a doctor. Oh yeah, Dr. Eric Ding. I'm 99% there's certain there's another surge on the way in April or May. Why? The more contagious. So this variant is more contagious. Is surging, now crossed the 50% threshold of all cases, in addition to pockets of other variants. And so national data also disturbing state and local trends. About 15 states have more cases than they did 2 weeks ago. So they're on the rise. And about 19 states have higher test positivity rates than 2 weeks ago, indicating higher rates of infection. Hospitalizations, which typically lag infections by 2 to 3 weeks, have begun to inch up in some places. Deaths from COVID-19, which typically lag another 2 weeks behind hospitalizations, may rise again in April, all while states begin to loosen restrictions. That's a problem. That is a problem. And I think a big issue is that the media doesn't talk about it. The media never talks about it, right? They always talked about it under Trump. The media doesn't talk about it now. So a lot of people are like, oh, wow, COVID's not nearly as bad now. And we can just go about our lives a little bit more. Like everyone just has relaxed, right? And it's not just because they're not reporting on it as much doesn't mean that it's not happening, because it's still happening. It's still like these new variants are here and they're dangerous because because they can spread faster. They're more highly contagious, which COVID-19 was already a very highly contagious virus. And so then I saw this article, and I want to read this article with you guys because it was from Lee. It's from The Intercept. So there you go, Intercept. It's from Lee Fong. I think that's how you say his last name. And I have been seeing a lot, I saw Lee talk about it a little bit, but I've seen a lot of the, drug companies, obviously, they're producing a lot more of the vaccines, but they're restricting access for smaller, poor countries. And they're restricting access to their IP. So other people can't even make like generic forms of the same vaccines that they have. Now, why would they do that? Well, they're doing it to protect their profits for money. They're doing it for money. And but what is it going to do? Is it's going to make us less safe, because if these poor countries don't get vaccinated for another few years, well, then it can still be spreading. And so exactly, Sophia Nugent said it will come back to bite us if we don't vaccinate the rest of the world. Exactly. But they don't care about that. They don't care about that. All they care about is they're going to protect their profits. So let's go through this. Let's go through this article. Li Fong writes, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson pledged affordable vaccines. When did they do that? I mean, they probably did at first. But we should not have believed that. I probably didn't if I read that. But only as long as there's a pandemic. Some of the shit in here is crazy. that the U.S. pharmaceutical firms behind the approved coronavirus, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer, have quietly touted plans to raise prices on coronavirus vaccines in the near future and to capitalize on the virus's lasting presence. Okay, here we go. While the companies have enjoyed a boost in goodwill, this is what I was talking about, a boost in goodwill from the rush to develop vaccines, drug industry executives have noted the public is still sensitive to drug pricing, and the reputational risk has so far curtailed their ability to reap large financial rewards. Yeah, but everyone's sensitive to the prices of this stuff, but if there's neither party in power is going to change anything about it, right? Then people are still they're gonna have to go still buy their drugs. At that point, it just amounts to a complaint. We need to actually start holding these companies accountable. And a lot of times when they have like a $2 or $3 billion fine, that's the cost of business. That's the cost of business. They're making billions of dollars, $2 billion fine. Johnson & Johnson, I'm pretty sure a few weeks ago got caught like poisoning baby food. They'd probably just get a slap on the wrist and then they go back to just being as the cost of business. Nothing happens. No one gets prosecuted, right? Behind the guise of a company, you can pretty much do anything to people, kill people, poison waterways, put lead in the water. It doesn't matter. If you're behind the guise of a corporation, no one will go to jail. They'll slap a little $2 billion fine on you. And then they just keep on pushing. So it has so far curtailed their ability to reap large financial rewards. But as soon as America gets back to, chugging along and everyone's doing what they were doing before, oh, trust me, they're going to reap those large financial rewards when people aren't paying attention anymore. And I guarantee you the media won't be covering it. But that environment, they hope, will Li Fong writes, but that environment, they hope, will change once the pandemic ends, a date that drug makers themselves reserve the right to declare. Drug makers themselves deserve, or what does it say? Drug makers themselves reserve the right to declare when this pandemic ends. Drug companies. That in and of itself is a massive story to me. That's unbelievable. Pharmaceutical officials speaking at recent conferences and on calls with investors say they expect the virus will linger, morphing from a pandemic into a perennial endemic. They're essentially thinking it's going to be more something like the flu, where they have to like guess the vaccine every year or guess whatever mutation it will be. And as COVID-19 mutations continue to spread, and booster shots may be required on a regular basis, kind of similar to the flu. Leaders from the three companies are enthusiastic about cashing in. Of course they are. As this shifts from pandemic to endemic, we think there's an opportunity here for us, said Frank D'Amelio, the CFO for Pfizer, at a conference. Additional factors such as the need for booster shots present a significant opportunity for our vaccine from a demand perspective. From a pricing perspective, they're going to jack up prices given the clinical profile of our vaccine. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson have also pledged affordability for their vaccines for the duration of the pandemic, but have indicated to investors that they plan to return to more commercial pricing as early as later this year. Commercial pricing, aka price gouging people so that some people can't afford it and therefore they're way less safe, but we don't care because we're making our billions and billions of dollars and we don't give a shit, and we're going to keep doing it, and we're going to pay the politicians to make sure that we can keep doing it and it won't be illegal for us. I'm Pfizer. I'm Johnson & Johnson. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson have also pledged. Okay, I already said that. The vaccines are already posed to be some of the most lucrative drugs of all time. These companies are expecting to bring in billions in profit this year alone, and all the major drugs. And this isn't even from all their other medication. That's from all the other profits that they have, the billions of dollars in profits from just the regular drugs that they, push to people at an unbelievable clip. This is just from the vaccines. The companies are expecting to bring in billions in profit this year alone. All approved receive investments and back orders. Look at this. All the major drug makers who with approved coronavirus vaccines received investments and back orders from government agencies. Our money. So our money goes to funding the research. Our money goes to buying the vaccines. And then we also get charged and have to use our money to buy the vaccine. Doesn't that make sense? Oh, okay. The U.S. government has fully financed the research and development of several coronavirus vaccines, including those produced by Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, to the tune of over $2 billion. Our money, the government, which is funded by taxpayers, so that's our money. The U.S. has also provided nearly $2 billion in payments to secure doses of Pfizer vaccine, which has developed, again, our money, which has developed in partnership with BioNTech, a company that received nearly $500 million in development assistance from the German government. So the German people's money. So they're getting all this money from the government, which is our money. And now they're going to jack up prices so that we ourselves have to use our money again to buy the same vaccines that we already funded the production for. To me, like, that's so similar to the unemployment, and like if student debt would be forgiven. I was like, it's taxed. Unemployment's taxed. Wait, unemployment is money from the government to help me if I'm unemployed. So that's my money, that tax money that went to the government. Now I'm getting it back from the government because I need help. But oh wait, we're gonna tax that. Isn't that taxing it double? Am I getting taxed twice? Like, this is the same shit. Like, this is just legal. This is just what happens in this country, and everyone just accepts it. Like, okay, I guess this is just how things function. No, it doesn't have to function like that, but because no one pays attention, it does function like that because they can get away with it. Pay us to make it so we can charge you for it in the free market. Exactly. Honestler H, thanks so much for the super chat. We need to really get to the roots of our ills. Yep, I'm with you. COVID being one of them. They're all connected. A vax is an illusory quick fix. Business as usual. That's so true. And I was making that same argument because there were places, like in Asia, that they weren't waiting for some, miracle Western fix to this issue. They actually got control of the virus, and then they were able to like pretty much eliminate it and then go back to living their normal lives. We were like, no, we don't care. Anything that restricts us from doing anything, even like a mask, which, do you want your doctor performing surgery on you, your surgeon, without a mask, and then they sneeze and all of a sudden that you get bacteria and all type of stuff in your body? Do you want that? So no, you're okay with the surgeon wearing the mask to prevent the spread of germs, but you're not okay with us wearing a mask, like all the people wearing a mask in the middle of a deadly pandemic, which is a virus which is spread through things coming out of your mouth. Like, it just does not make sense. Like, I want y'all to understand like how other countries are looking at us, and they have to be laughing. They have to be laughing. Because for a whole year we were debating whether masks work. That's what we were debating. That was the discourse here in this country. If y'all need to have a better look into like the Overton window and how just absolutely freaking so far right wing the frame of every argument is in this country. Same thing with the $2,000 checks. We're talking about $1,400 check versus $2,000 check, whereas other countries completely subsidize the wages of a lot of companies, so people were getting a paycheck even if they weren't working. So, yeah, this is wild. Let's see if there's anything more. Let's see. Projecting to make $15 billion in sales this year alone, $4 billion of which would be purely profit. Wow. Purely profit. Okay, I had another. Let me show y'all another part of this story that I wanted to cover because it had to do with other countries being able to get it. Did I already talk about that? I'm forgetting. Here we go. Oh yeah, I definitely. Yeah, let's look at this. This is from Washington Post opinions. This is gonna be a wild ride. So I hope y'all ready. This is gonna be a wild ride, and I'll get to your super chats after this story's over. This is gonna be a wild ride. Most of Africa, and parts of South America and Asia are not expected to achieve widespread vaccination coverage until 2023. The editorial board has the latest. So as soon as I see this, I'm like, okay, Washington Post. I'm like, okay, Washington Post. Y'all are actually on the side of like poor countries in Africa and South America and Asia. Like y'all want us to be giving out the vaccines, kind of like Cuba's doing, actually creating and giving out the intellectual property for some of these vaccines so these countries can develop it. Okay, Washington Post. Okay, here we go. This is by the Washington Post editorial board. Once the United States has used all the vaccine doses it needs, the rest of the world will still be desperate for more. President Biden should begin planning now to donate surplus doses to others. I was like, okay, there we go. Should now begin planning to donate surplus doses to others and think about ways over the long run to get life-saving vaccines to poorer nations in a more equitable way. Okay, there we go. That's a solid intro. That's a solid intro. Based on contracts, most of the doses coming off of production lines from the major drug oh, hold up. I didn't even go to the next page. Hold up. The chat is behind too. I didn't even get to see the chat saying, wait, we can't even see what you're looking at. Here we go. My bad. I just read this part. So far. I just read that. Okay. Based on the contracts, most of the doses coming off production lines from the major drug companies are going to the United States because we bought all of them. European countries and a few other wealthy nations, right? As the Post reported over the weekend, the time needed to ramp up production, along with shortages of raw materials, has left in the lurch many nations that could not afford the reserve to early supplies, which is a problem. Most of Africa and parts of South America and Asia are not expected to achieve widespread vaccination coverage until 2023, 2 years from now. 2 years. Does it have to be that long? Of course not. Imagine if what Cuba was doing, we were doing on a massive scale to make sure the entire world was vaccinated. Like actually giving out just heavily subsidized or free vaccines to these poor countries and actually getting everyone vaccinated. We could do that. We just don't want to. And so exacerbating the chasm between haves and have-nots. Exactly. This is right on that Washington Post. There you go, Washington Post editorial board. I see you. Those nations with vaccines have engaged in a burst of vaccine diplomacy, seeking influence and leverage in the way shots are distributed and sold. AKA, they're pleading with poor countries to help them out, because they obviously don't have as much money. They're pleading with them to help us out or help them out. That's what that means. Vaccine diplomacy. No, they're saying COVID is really bad here too, and we need your help because we don't have the money to just pay hundred or billions of dollars to, hog all the vaccines like the United States does. Okay, here we go. Here's where the riot starts. India and South Africa are spearheading an effort supported by a wide array of non-governmental organizations and a large group of Democrats in Congress. I hope that's the progressives. I think that might be, which would waive World Trade Organization protections on intellectual property in hopes of disseminating vaccine technology more widely. So that's what the Washington Post is saying other people are advocating for, are spearheading an effort. They're not going to join in on that effort. And you're going to see here what they have to say about it. At issue are protections covering copyrights, industrial designs, patents, and trade secrets. So far, the Biden administration has rejected the waiver, and with good reason. Well, wait, you were just saying that these countries are pleading because they need these vaccines, and all the wealthy countries are just buying all of them, and there's not any left, and they're trying to protect their intellectual property, so they can't even produce them themselves. You just got done saying that, and now you're saying Biden administration rejected the waiver, and with good reason. I couldn't, like when I read that, I was like, oh my. It would not produce what is most needed today, a sudden boost in manufacturing to meet global demand. It would represent an abrupt change in the rules of the game under which the pharma companies succeeded in developing remarkably effective vaccines in record time. You mean the one where we gave them a bunch of money, a bunch of our taxpayer dollars to develop these vaccines, and then they're going to end up profiting billions so that their rich ass executives can get even richer and their rich ass shareholders can just get richer, and then they're going to hike up the prices on the actual people that paid it, which are the taxpayers, and then they're actually not going to be able to even afford it. That's the game. No, that is the game. You're defending the game. You're not saying no, this game is rigged. You're defending the game, and that's your problem, Washington Post editorial board. Remember, everything that is printed in the Washington Post goes through the editorial board. This is the frame at which they look at issues in this world through. That's it. With good reason, because we make our money and they don't make as much money as we do, so they don't deserve to have the vaccines as much as we deserve to have it. That's the game. I'm the Washington Post editorial board. That's nuts to me. But see, you don't get to that position unless you have, and this is what Noam Chomsky said to that reporter. I'm sure you believe everything you're saying, but if you thought something different, you would not be sitting in that chair. And that's the Washington Post editorial board. Unreal. Okay, where was I? Okay. In record time, right. The game where we gave them all the money to do it. Yes, the companies stand a profit. Yes, the companies stand a profit from their monopolies on individual vaccines. Washington Post, here's the Washington Post advocating for monopolies. Advocating for monopolies. They just go out and admit it, and they're like rationalizing it. Oh yeah, of course they stand a profit from their monopolies, but it won't be conducive to future innovation to strip away their intellectual property protections. So they're saying if these drug companies weren't around, period, then we wouldn't have developed the vaccine. The vaccine just wouldn't have been developed. I'm pretty sure Cuba is like just the state is developing vaccines, not necessarily pharmaceutical companies. It's not, the pharmaceutical companies aren't the only one. Like, they use the money to research and develop a vaccine. That did not have to be a corporation that did that. That's just how we do it in our system here. This paragraph is just unbelievable to me. Okay, where was I? Yes, the United States spent $10 billion in Operation Warp Speed to accelerate the vaccine development and manufacturing effort. That's a big part. That's a big thing. You're just kind of glossing over. Like, that's the main argument, and they're just like dismiss it. Like, of course, yeah, we did that, among other contributions, but notably, it did not require companies to turn over their intellectual property to the government or to share it. That's the problem. That's the issue. That's literally the issue, and you're saying it. You're saying the issue, but you're being like, oh, it's just how it is. It's the way the game's played. Okay, I'm the Washington Post editorial board. We're rich. The government doesn't take away our funding when we spew bullshit lies and conspiracy theories like Russiagate for 4 straight years. We still get to keep our paper. We still get to keep everything. Wow. I didn't read the rest of this. I don't know what the rest of this is. After that, I stopped, because if you're looking at it through that frame, you're lost. If you're looking at the issue through that frame, you're already lost. So whatever the rest of the shit you say doesn't even matter. That doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. That's all I got for you guys.